by an extraordinarily narrow vote of 215 to 214. One lawmaker voted present. That's a major win, of course, for House Speaker Mike Johnson, who had to somehow maneuver this very complex piece of legislation through the process. Obviously, you had people on the right who were criticizing the bill for not cutting spending enough, people on the left who were criticizing the bill for not raising SALT deductions enough. As the Wall Street Journal reports, the passage of the big, beautiful bill marked a major win for Trump and Johnson, who again found the formula that steered a course between hardliners who wanted deeper spending cuts and moderates who worried the bill would hurt their districts, hospitals, and clean energy projects. Thursday morning's vote was a significant step toward extending Trump's expiring 2017 tax cuts and cementing other conservative priorities while trimming spending on Medicaid and food aid. It again showed the president's power to unite fractious House Republicans whose narrow majority meant any handful of dissidents could have sunk the bill. Now, again, one of the weird things about very narrow majorities is very often they're actually more durable than big majorities. Why? Well, because you can tell who the outliers are. If you have 220 votes as opposed to 240 votes, 240 votes, you might have a block of 30 people who all vote against the bill and it goes down in flaming defeat. But who exactly do you blame for that? 30 people voted against it. If it's like 3 people, you know individually who to blame. The only Republicans who did not vote for the bill were Representatives Andy Harris, who voted present. Representatives Andrew Garbarino of New York and David Schweiker missed the vote. And, of course, Thomas Massie voted against the bill as well. So Massie and another representative, Warren Davidson in Ohio. Every Democrat was opposed. There were some late-breaking updates on the bill. Those include an acceleration of the Medicaid work requirements to December 2026 from 2029, right, which makes the cuts effectuate faster. Because the Medicaid work requirement, again, the fact that this is controversial on any level is insane to me. Of course, if you are able-bodied and just poor, you should have to work in order to receive Medicaid. That like 80 hours a month. Again, that's 20 hours a week. That's 4 hours per workday. My kids are in school for like twice that length of time. It's ridiculous to suggest that you're entitled to Medicaid if you're unwilling to work. That's silly. Also, it's going to end certain tax credits for wind energy and solar energy by 2028 instead of 2031. So those were the concessions to the fiscal hawks. The updates also locked in a $40,000 cap on state and local tax deductions starting this year, up from a $30,000 cap in the prior plan. Again, that was designed to satisfy people in New York and New Jersey. So Johnson was able to shepherd this through. Now, a completely different bill is likely to pass in the Senate, and then those two bills will come together. Now, the CBO is saying that, effectively speaking, this is going to eventually cause cuts to Medicare. Now, the bill doesn't cut Medicare. It doesn't. There's nothing in the bill that cuts Medicare. Why is the CBO claiming that the bill is going to cut Medicare? Well, because the idea is that it adds so much to the national debt that would force cuts in Medicare beginning in 2026. Because it would officially add, apparently, $2.3 trillion to the deficit over the next 10 years, the Congressional Budget Office projects. That would force budget officials to mandate across-the-board spending cuts over that window that would hit Medicare. The legislation significantly adds to the national debt. When it exceeds $36.2 trillion, it triggers sequestration or compulsory budget reductions. In that scenario, Medicare cuts would be capped at 4% annually, or $490 billion over 10 years. So, again, those reductions, by the way, are not a foregone conclusion. So when the CBO says Medicare will be cut, that's not a foregone conclusion. In all likelihood, by the way, it won't be. In all likelihood, it would just take out some more debt. Congress can simply instruct the CBO to disregard the reconciliation package's debt impact, pass new legislation to reduce the deficit, or change federal budget scorekeeping rules. So, again, this is a stretch by the CBO. Again, it's all provisional. It's like, oh, well, if everything got left in place and nobody changed anything, then maybe there would have to be cuts. Okay, that's ridiculous. All these things are going to change. Congress will move to stop cuts to Medicare. We all know that's going to happen. The real question here is not that. The real question is not cuts to Medicare. The real question is, what the hell do we do about our debt? And that is a real question. The American national debt is a disaster area. There's a reason why the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell more than 800 points yesterday, and that's because of a weak bond market. So again, what does that mean? It means that people have very little faith that in the future, 20, 30 years from now, they're going to be able to get back their money if they buy a bond from the U.S. government. A bond just means essentially you're loaning money to the U.S. government at a rate of interest for a period of time. That's what a bond is. And so if people don't want to buy bonds, that's because either they believe they're not going to get their money back, or they believe that it's going to be paid back in inflated dollars. And that was sort of the evidence from a bond auction that happened yesterday. According to the Wall Street Journal, The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 817 points, or 1.9%, leading indices lower. Longer-term U.S. Treasury yields rose again, with the 10-year yield approaching 4.6% and the 30-year surging above 5%. That was the highest in the 30-year bond since October of 2023. Yields extended their gains in the afternoon after a $16 billion auction of 20-year Treasury bonds attracted soft demand from investors, selling at a higher yield than traders had anticipated. A higher yield just means a lower price. And the yield is the difference between the interest rate on the bond and the price that you're paying for the bond. Right? That's the yield. So if the yield increases, that is a reflection of there not being a lot of desire for people to buy the bonds. And that's why the markets are freaking out, because they're saying, okay, maybe at some point the debt is going to become a serious, real issue. So again, the Wall Street Journal has a pretty good explanation as to why the yields are actually increasing. Some are not bad. I mean, for example, people run to bonds when they're unsure about the economy. They run to stocks when they think the economy is going to go up. So as people worry less about recession, they're not running as much to bonds. But there is persistent inflation anxiety. You don't buy a bond if you believe that your gains in the bond are going to be inflated away. Right? If I lend you $100, expecting to get back $105, but I know you have a money printing machine in your basement that's going to just print out counterfeit bills that are indistinguishable from the real ones, I'm not going to lend you the money. That's essentially why you have a problem. People believe that eventually the American government's going to inflate its way out of all of this. And again, there are also rising yields overseas, because everybody is now doing debt-led growth at this point in time. And this is a serious, real crisis. It's a debt spiral that is beginning to occur in the United States. Neither party is willing to take it on. That is just a reality. It is just a reality. Neither party is willing to take that on. And that is a disaster area. That is a failure of your politicians. But let's be real about this. This is a representative democracy. This is a failure of the American people. The American people have come to expect that the government is going to pay extraordinary amounts of their bill. And if you believe that, then you can't be surprised when the government has to take out extraordinary amounts of debt. And that means later, either extraordinary cuts, extraordinary inflation, or extraordinary tax increases. Those are really the only options. And this is a point made by William Galston over at the Wall Street Journal today. He says, the Congressional Budget Office in March issued a report on America's long-term fiscal situation. If current laws remained generally unchanged, the 2017 tax cuts would expire at the end of this year, and discretionary spending would shrink as a share of GDP. Under that scenario, the annual budget deficit in 2035 would remain roughly in line with where it now stands, about 6% of GDP, and we would add more than $20 trillion to publicly held government debt between 2025 and 2035, raising debt as a share of GDP from about 100% to a record 118%. And he says, let's be clear about what changing course means. As the U.S. population continues to age, the cost of Social Security and Medicare as a share of GDP will mount inexorably. Together, these two programs will account for more than 100% of the increase in federal spending as a share of GDP over the next decade. These demographic and political realities point to the same conclusion. Increased revenue will be needed to secure these programs for the long term. And so what is coming is probably a tax bomb somewhere along the line here. Either a tax bomb or an inflation bomb or austerity measures. Those are the only choices. There are no other choices. Because at a certain point, you can't just sell your debt into a market that doesn't want to buy your debt. That may not be the short-term concern, but it certainly is a mid to long-term concern and really, really should be. There's more on this in a moment. First, choosing Simply Safe for my studio, really, really easy decision. Whenever we arm the system before leaving or calling it a day, my team and I get instant peace of mind knowing our equipment and creative work are protected. With Simply Safe standing guard, I can focus on my projects and rest easier, confident I'm covered if anything happens, especially while I'm out of the office and traveling. I would love for you to experience that same security in your home. With Simply Safe, families enjoy the gold standard in home security and genuine peace of mind whenever they arm their system. Unlike traditional systems that only respond after a break-in occurs, Simply Safe's Active Guard outdoor protection works to prevent intrusions before they happen. Their AI-powered cameras with live professional monitoring detect suspicious activity, allowing agents to intervene in real time, speaking to potential intruders, activating spotlights, contacting police before anyone enters your home. With no long-term contracts, affordable monitoring at about $1 daily, and a 60-day money-back guarantee, Simply Safe delivers both protection and value for homeowners. Visit simplysafe.com/Shapiro to claim 50% off a new system with a professional monitoring plan and get your first month for free. That's simplysafe.com/Shapiro. There is no safe like Simply Safe. Also, starting a business can be really exciting. The financial chaos that comes with it, not so much fun. When we launched the Daily Wire, we became very familiar with compiling a sea of receipts, trying to track employee expenses, spending countless hours reconciling statements. That was all a nightmare until we got it figured out. Again, when you start a business, you just don't have time to do any of this stuff. And that's why I want to introduce you to Ramp. Ramp is a free corporate card that automates your entire tedious and time-consuming expense process. Most finance teams are trapped, spending about 80% of their time on tactical busy work like chasing expenses and reconciling statements, with only 20% left for strategic thinking. Ramp flips that equation entirely. Their corporate card automates operations, freeing you and your finance team to focus on those strategies that truly drive growth: forecasting, strategic planning, high-value decision-making. It's no wonder over 25,000 businesses trust Ramp, including Shopify and the Boys and Girls Club of America. That's why they were just named #1 in spend management by G2. Plus, switching to Ramp is simple. For new members, Ramp offers a complimentary white glove onboarding service to help you migrate from your current corporate card to start using Ramp. And now, for a limited time, listeners of this show can get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/Shapiro. That's ramp.com/Shapiro, ramp.com/Shapiro. Cards issued by Sutton Bank. Member FDIC. Terms and conditions apply. And meanwhile, in a bit of shock news, apparently Donald Trump Jr. is now hinting that he wants to run for president at some point in the future. Here he was yesterday.
Would you consider picking up the reins? Would you run for office?
Here we go. Well, oh boy. Well, it's an honor to be asked and an honor to see that some people are okay with it.
Those are just our friends.
Yeah,
in the front
that's
row,
probably
by the
just
way.
a couple people
like
we know.
The team,
those are
like
the
three
tickets
people
we got.
yeah, that's it. Right.
You never know.
Okay, again, that would be Omid Malik and Don Jr. sitting at the Qatar Economic Forum in a session that was originally titled Monetizing MAGA. Not a great look. Not a great look. By the way, Tucker Carlson, who is funded by Omid Malik and Don Jr. at 1789 Capital, has said, not a particularly good look. He's right about that. It is not, in fact, a good look. I'm just going to put it out there right now. No. No. Okay, dynasties are un-American. They are not good. Okay, George W., after George H.W., was not great for the country. The idea of Michelle Obama for Barack Obama, not great for the country. The idea of Hillary Clinton for Bill Clinton, not great for the country. No. Okay, we elected Donald Trump for a reason, but connection with President Trump's name does not mean that you should be president of the United States. President Trump ran against dynasties when he opposed Jeb Bush in 2016. This was literally one of his leading gambits, was attacking Jeb Bush for being part of a political dynasty. Why the American obsession with political dynasties? And that's not a critique of Donald Trump Jr. as a person or as a future politician. That's just a reality that dynasties in American politics are typically bad. Kennedy dynasties, Bush dynasties, none of this is good. And when you combine that with the fact that many of the organizations that Donald Trump Jr. is connected to are making an enormous amount of money during this period of time when his father is president, which raises awkward questions, certainly, about Trump administration policy, ranging from Trump meme coin to World Liberty Financial to gigantic real estate deals in Qatar. None of this is an amazingly good look. This administration is doing too many important, I'll say it again, this administration is doing too many important things to be bogged down with conversations about how members of the Trump family or the Witkoff family or any of the other families surrounding the administration are making bank while President Trump is president in countries that President Trump is attempting to negotiate with. That is not a good thing. At the very least, it is not a useful thing. Meanwhile, President Trump seems to be coming to better conclusions with regard to Vladimir Putin and Ukraine, according to the Wall Street Journal. On a call Monday, President Trump told European leaders Russian President Vladimir Putin isn't ready to end the Ukraine war because he thinks he's winning, according to senior European officials familiar with the conversation. Good. That is actually a realization of reality from President Trump. Obviously, that's true. In a statement after an earlier version of this article from the Wall Street Journal, Caroline Leavitt disputed the account, saying that President Trump says he believes Putin is winning the war, but he never said Putin isn't ready to end the war. Leavitt said that Trump said several times during the call that he believes Putin wants peace and wants the war to be over. One of the officials who was on the call said Trump began the discussion by saying, I think Vladimir does not want peace. Okay, well, I certainly hope the Europeans are right and Caroline Leavitt is incorrect here, because Putin does not want peace. I would like to see one single solitary piece of evidence that Vladimir Putin wants peace. Seriously, like one. is literally doing President Trump says to Zelensky at this point, jump, and Zelensky says, how high? That is the relationship between the United States and Ukraine. Clearly. Apparently, Trump held an earlier call with European leaders on Sunday, a day before his 2-hour conversation with Putin. He had indicated he could impose sanctions if Putin refused a ceasefire, according to officials. By Monday, he shifted again. Instead, he said he wanted lower-level talks between Russia and Ukraine at the Vatican. So Europe is seeing some upside here. The entire process is showing that Vladimir Putin actually is not particularly interested in serious negotiations, which, of course, he is not. Putin is waiting everybody out. That's all. America's enemies are waiting America out, which, by the way, not a bad strategy. Traditionally speaking, waiting America out in Afghanistan, in Iraq, anywhere is a good strategy. The American people get bored and they get tired, and their presidents like pulling them out of places, even if it ends in ignominious defeat, as it did in, for example, Afghanistan. Speaking of ignominious defeat and ignominious people, the scandal surrounding Joe Biden continues. Who knew what when? Jake Tapper has been making the round with his new book, Original Sin. And say what you will about Tapper's coverage of the president's infirmity over the past several years, and you can say a lot. Tapper is now saying many true things, okay? That is just the reality. And Tapper was on MSNBC, where he told Joe Scarborough that actually Joe Biden was almost singularly focused on convincing Joe Scarborough that he was not senile.
When David Ignatius wrote that column in, I think, August 2023, saying that Joe Biden should not run for re-election because of what he had been hearing.
Right.
And he came on this show, and you guys had a robust conversation about this. You largely agreed that you'd been hearing things about this, but that there was really no alternative, that Kamala Harris was not up to the job. That's what Democrats were telling you behind the scenes. Joe Biden saw that. Joe Biden said to staffers that he wanted to convince you that you were wrong. And he focused on you like you were a constituency, like you were farmers in Iowa, like you were the Kiwanis Club in New Hampshire. And
Joe Scarborough. By the way, all these revelations from the book are pretty incredible. According to Axios, needing video of then-President Biden speaking sharply and fluidly in a freewheeling setting, his campaign staged a closed-to-the-press town hall with a friendly audience in April 2024. The resulting footage was unusable. That's unbelievable. So they literally staged a fake town hall for him so he would look like he could talk, and they couldn't use any of it in April 2024. And then the part that just boggles the mind is that then they allowed him on camera to challenge Donald Trump to a debate. Now, I don't know what they thought. Did they think that Trump wouldn't take him up on it? Of course, Trump had to take him up on it. What was he going to do, not debate Biden? Of course he was going to debate Biden. Like, that was red meat for President Trump. Are you kidding? Like, that's the part that's astonishing. And I think the only plausible explanation for some people buying into the idea that Biden wasn't quite as senile as it seemed was you would have to be insane to trot a senile man out in the middle of a campaign to do a debate with his chief opponent, who is a debate bulldog, like just rips people apart. A bulldog jaws on President Trump in debate. Like the meanest debater of all time. He's a mean man when he debates. There's no question. Like putting him in the debate ring with challenging Trump to a debate. A lot of people must say, oh, well, maybe he's better than he looks. I mean, you'd have to be like a complete nut or maybe senile in order to, challenge Trump. And then he did it. According to the book, the event at a high school gym in Biden's home state of Delaware was supposed to be the basis for a campaign commercial. The idea was to create scenes of Biden taking off-the-cuff questions from voters that could be used in ads. The campaign had a pre-screened list of questions the voters would ask. The cameras rolled for 90 minutes with Biden on stage. Apparently, some blamed the lighting for the problem was not the lighting. The problem was, I'm sure, his performance. The campaign regularly needed recorded remarks from Biden that could be played at events or used in fundraising pitches. But the candidate was often unable to tape even mundane remarks without botching the lines. When supportive groups requested a taped 5-minute video address from Biden, the White House would respond by saying the video could be 1 or 2 minutes. What? As a workaround, Biden would be filmed with 2 cameras instead of 1, so any flubbed lines could be smoothed with jump cuts. And by the way, we knew this, right? We were covering this on the show. We literally would play tape of Biden, and then we would have like a counter in the corner of the screen going like 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 jump cuts in 13 seconds. Because that's evidence that the dude couldn't speak words from his face hole. Unbelievable. Staff, apparently, according to the book, blamed Biden's inability to find words or stay on a train of thought, not his stutter, for the issue, despite the fact that the media kept claiming that it was a stutter. Thompson and Tapper write every shoot was anxiety-inducing for Biden's team. Meanwhile, Jill Biden continues to push back. The Biden spokespeople are not commenting on any of this. Shocker there. Of course they're not commenting on any of this. The minute they comment, they're finished. Meanwhile, it's fun to watch Democrats scurry around trying to avoid the consequences of their own complicity. It's really, really funny. According to Politico, 24 hours after the Sunday announcement that President Biden has an aggressive form of prostate cancer, one of his staunchest supporters, Representative Jim Clyburn of South Carolina, said Monday he had yet to connect with him. Another close Hill ally, Senator Chris Coons, had not spoken with Biden as of mid-afternoon on Tuesday. Biden's longtime friend, Bob Brady, the former House member from Pennsylvania, who's known Biden for decades, said he still had not talked with Biden. Again, Biden is not hearing from anybody. Ain't nobody hearing from Biden. Most Democrats are still trying to pivot from Biden's health to stay on message. Representative Gabe Amo of Rhode Island, who is a former Biden White House aide, he's now in Congress, faulted Biden's critics for capitalizing on what he called the politics of the moment. We're back to the Republican pounces nonsense. Representative Veronica Escobar of Texas, who's a Biden re-elect co-chair, says, quote, "We are living through a historic, terrifying backsliding of our democracy. I'm so profoundly uninterested in talking about this issue." Yeah, I noticed you guys are profoundly uninterested in talking about the biggest presidential cover-up in history. Like, literally the only one that would even be remotely close would be the cover-up of Woodrow Wilson being completely feeble and feeble-minded by the end of his administration. And to be fair to the media, that happened in 1919. That's over 100 years ago. What a media fail. What a gigantic media fail. Meanwhile, speaking of cover-ups, the Daily Wire is now reporting, according to a Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, that Biden administration officials knew as early as February 2021 that the vaccines for COVID-19 were associated with myocarditis and pericarditis. Myocarditis is the inflammation of the heart muscle itself. Pericarditis is inflammation of the thin sac that surrounds the heart. They waited to warn the public until June while they continued to push the vax. The report concluded that U.S. health officials knew about the risks of myocarditis, downplayed the health concern, and deliberately delayed informing the public about the risk. That is insane. That is legitimately insane. Senator Ron Johnson, who chairs that committee, said in being concerned about vaccine hesitancy, they violated the inviolable principle of informed consent. Well, yes. He says that Israeli officials were informing the United States as early as February 2021 about side effects they were noticing from the vax. In late February, there was a CDC official named Lori Markowitz who co-led the Vaccine Safety Technical Work Group, who sent an email concerning draft minutes and summary report from a call. And apparently that call included an update about nearly 1,000 death reports to VAERS following vaccination. Notably, the email said that in the cases where cause of death was known, it was often cardiovascular. Apparently, according to the report, the Israeli Ministry of Health notified CDC of large reports of myocarditis, particularly in young people following the administration of the Pfizer vaccine. This is totally insane. And honestly, if you covered that up, you should that should be a prosecutable offense. If you know about legitimate, well-researched risks and you don't inform the public about those legitimate, well-researched risks, that should be a prosecutable offense. For sure. Without a doubt. Massive scandal. Truly amazing. But this was an administration of cover-ups. That is for sure. Meanwhile, the time has come. It's time for a Diddy update. I know. You've been waiting with bated breath for me to actually, get back into the trial of Diddy. And again, it's sort of fascinating on a prurient level. It's also fascinating because, once again, the gap in American perception between the illegal and the immoral has, I think, never been wider. It's very bizarre. In any case, according to the Washington Post, the government is working through its list of witnesses in the second week of testimony at the Sean Diddy Combs trafficking and racketeering trial in New York. Special Agent Gerard Gannon continued testifying on Wednesday, describing finding gun components, platform heels, and a ton of baby oil, apparently, when the Department of Homeland Security raided Combs' mansion in Miami last year. A forensic psychologist also testified that domestic abuse victims often love their partners, abuse drugs, and repress memories. Testimony that recalls Cassandra Ventura's account of her 11-year relationship with Combs. Thursday, apparently, we'll see more testimony from a former assistant to Combs, who said that Ventura quit after he saw his boss abuse her. Prosecutors also hope to call 5 new witnesses that will include Kid Cudi, I don't care. Cudi, whatever. A rapper who briefly dated Ventura while she was involved with Combs. Miss Cudi's car, that would be Kid Cudi, exploded after a jealous Combs threatened to blow it up. If you threaten to blow up a car and then it blows up, that's a kind of an indicator that maybe had something to do with it. It's kind of weird. Cars don't tend to blow up all that much, just like randomly. So again, this case, what I'm curious to know is whether it fulfills the definition of the federal crime. Again, the defense is going to claim that he's just as bad as you say he is. Was it trafficking on a federal level? And I'll be interested to hear what the actual charges for trafficking are. It'll be fascinating. And meanwhile, speaking of Diddy, there are all these sort of, again, when we talk about conspiracy theories that are sort of being put out there, again, I think that you can plausibly ask a question about which there is no evidence, but when you do it over and over and over again, I start to get a little suspicious. So podcaster Patrick Bet-David, he went after the Diddy case, suggesting that Diddy has been working with intelligence agencies. Maybe. Again, anything is possible, but anything is possible usually is not my standard for sort of airing a theory, because anything is indeed possible. I mean, if you have evidence of this, then you could show it, like, as opposed to just speculating. Again, maybe it's true, but, like, evidence, please.
The story has it that Diddy's father was an FBI informant leaking a lot of information to the FBI. These types of behaviors, you're going to pick it up from somebody, some kind of bad influence, somebody that taught you how to be an informant. Nobody wakes up one morning and just becomes Diddy. There's a lot of things that taught you, could be trauma, could be bad habits, and you're like, look, if this works effectively on me, I'm going to use this exact system on other people. And maybe he did.
Okay, maybe I don't even know what we're talking about now. So his dad worked for intelligence? I mean, Tucker Carlson's dad worked for, like, the intelligence community. So what? Who cares? What does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Again, I'm not defending Diddy from anything. I'm just wondering, like, at some point when we hear all of these theories, could we hear, like, a shred of evidence that doesn't involve a distant relative? The reason this is irritating to me is because people should actually sort of demand that when people make outlandish claims or outsized claims, they have outsized evidence to back those outsized claims. And I've named several conspiracies on the show today that actually existed. The conspiracy to cover up Joe Biden's mental health problems. The apparent conspiracy, now evidenced by Senator Ron Johnson, at the highest levels of the Biden administration to not report to the public what they knew, for example, about myocarditis in patients. I'm citing evidence to you of those things happening. I mean, again, you can play these theoretical games all day. I suppose if it floats your boat, that's fine. Where I start to get even more uptight is when you start impugning the honor of people that I know, like friends of mine, because you believe that your specious conspiracy theories are somehow more important than the people who actually see the evidence. So Dan Bongino, of course, a friend. Dan's great. Dan is now the deputy FBI director. He did an interview recently in which he stated that Epstein killed himself. Now, again, if Dan says it, I'll take his word for it because Dan's seen the evidence and I ain't. I've seen the same evidence everybody else has. The same evidence that Patrick Bet-David has seen, unless Patrick Bet-David has evidence that I don't know about. I trust that Dan is not lying to me because, again, I know Dan. And so when I hear this kind of junk where people suggest that government officials are being pressured by various agents to suppress information, okay, again, anything is possible, but anything is possible should not be your standard of reportage.
Look what happened with all the guys that said the day one, I'm going to release all the Epstein files, all the this and all the that and all the this. And then they go in and it's like, you know, I saw this stuff. There's nothing there. He killed himself. He committed suicide. You're like, wait, what? And these are friends of ours. These are not people that we're not supportive of. We're excited for them. They do great work. But, you know, something happens when you get a certain job at a level of clearance that the rest of the world does not have access to. We don't know. We can speculate and say what happens when you walk into that room after you get a job. There's a briefing. Let's talk about Epstein. You not got the job. This is a big job. How important is it for you to make sure America stays free as the greatest country in the world? Very. Well, guess what? There's a few things you have to do now that you have this job. You're going to get a briefing from 5 people that are going to come in. They're going to tell you exactly what intel we have and why it's important for us to make sure the story stays aligned because we have enough inventory to hold 220 very powerful people in the world hostage. And if we don't, and we can't blackmail them, then guess what? A lot of deals are not going to get done. And one of our assets, that's another, you know, secret intelligence agency, has also a lot of assets on this that could expose their relationship and their history, and we can't do this right now. And you need to be aligned with that. Can we count on you doing that? Yes, sir. All right, great. Here's what we need you to say to the media. I foresee a conversation like that taking place.
I foresee, okay, do you have any evidence of a conversation like that taking place? Like at any level? Or is that you just impugning Dan Bongino and saying that Dan's lying? Sure, he's lying for the good of the country. Sure, he's lying for the good of the intel, but he's lying. That Dan's a liar. I know Dan. I don't believe that Dan's a liar. And by the way, if Dan had come out and said Epstein did not kill himself, all these people would be like, yes, because Dan's a truth teller. Because Dan is, in fact, a truth teller. But if your definition of a truth teller or a liar comes based on their confirmation of the theories that you are spinning out in your own head, like, I'm sorry, this is just, it's unintelligent, and it is not useful. Speculation without any evidence whatsoever. I'll bet there was a conversation that took place between Dan Bongino and Jimmy Hoffa in the back room over at the FBI, in which Jimmy Hoffa, who they've been hiding in the back room for 30 years, came out and told Dan Bongino that he definitely needed to cover up the involvement of foreign intelligence agencies in the assassination of JFK. And Dan Bongino said, yes, sir, I could totally foresee a conversation like that happening. What evidence do you have that Dan Bongino's a liar? What evidence do you have that Dan is somehow lying to a public that he has spent years informing and talking to? That he's lying to his own audience, by the way. You think Dan doesn't know what his audience is speculating about with regard to Jeffrey Epstein? You think Dan is unaware of that? Dan had one of the biggest audiences in this entire space. Is it... Honestly, this is just... If you fall for this kind of garbage, truly, sure, it's fun. It's always fun. It's just after dinner drunk conversations about who killed JFK. Fine. It's fun. It's enjoyable. I get it. But if we're going to pretend this is like a source of useful and good information, I'm just wondering on what basis. The conversations like this, not everything Patrick Bet David says, conversations like this one. How is that useful or good? And the answer is, it's not. It's stupid, and it's useless, and it's counterproductive, because it makes us unable to distinguish fact from fiction or speculation from reality. All righty, the show continues in a moment with the vaunted Ben Shapiro Show mailbag. Remember, in order to watch, you have to be a member. If you're not a member, become a member right now and get access to all of our amazing behind-the-paywall content. Use code Shapiro at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click that link in the description and join us.
Watch over me.
Get that vehicle moving again! The final 10 seconds! Hi, it's me, Lumi. Okay, yay! But yeah, I woke up from a nightmare and I was like, wow, so nice to be wholly and completely uncancelable. And then I was gonna go tweet it. But yeah, and then I was like, I'm gonna tweet that I am wholly uncancelable. Well, I'm glad I did.
Gentlemen and female gentlemen, we are so back. We are doing Dragon Ball Z Abridged. As you know, I like it a lot so far. I'm not gonna lie. 10,000 likes for another episode immediately. We do daily videos on the Nux Taku channel. Daily videos! All right, we overanalyze every anime, cartoon, abridged series. Lock in, boys and girl. We're on episode 13.
It's a non-profit fan-based parody. Dragon Ball Z, and Dragon Ball GT are all owned by Funimation, Toei Animation, Fuji TV, and Akira Toriyama. Please support the official release.
So, after 731 grueling galactic weeks of travel, or 1 month if you've never watched Men in Black, our
Got it. Great
heroes
reference.
have finally arrived on planet Namek.
All
Where the
right.
sky is green, the grass is blue, and it's boring as
True! Look at this play. Boring as shit.
Hey, go Gohan.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, I am just saying, I hope Vegeta gets here this episode, man.
Check it
Or
out.
I hope we meet Kami. Everyone keeps telling me that we have to meet Kami. You know, the big green guy. You know what I'm talking about? Big green fat ass looking motherfucker. I'm talking about Namek, Jabba. You know what I'm saying?
Bluegrass. What do you think their favorite kind of music is? Huh?
Don't say blues. Don't say blues.
R&B?
Huh. You're really sheltered, aren't you?
I had to read an entire book about peach farming on the way here. You tell me.
Bro, this just sounds like modern college, bro. That's just modern college. You know what I'm saying? You're thinking of Guru? That's exactly who I was thinking of. You're correct. I didn't watch Dragon Ball in 20 years, goddammit. All right, I'm talking about the big green fat ass looking motherfucker over there sitting in his chair with incredible aura. That's what I'm talking about. But yeah, no, they sound like they're in your average like liberal arts college class. I'm just reading lesbian tap dancing.
Well, hey, we're on Namek now.
Woo! Let's go.
Got the dragon radar?
Right here. We're already picking up 4 Dragon Balls.
Yeah, we're dragging our balls right over there.
See? Now we just have to find them, wish our friends back, and head on home.
Hey, Krillin, is that a Saiyan ship?
Yes! Vegeta, Vegeta! Vegeta,
Oh,
Vegeta!
now those 4 Dragon Balls are on the move.
Vegeta, Vegeta! Your day got immediately worse. Vegeta, Vegeta!
Ah, good to be back at 100% again.
What's this just random screaming in the background?
Oh, I just got here and this planet's already annoying me.
True, me every time I walk into every family gathering, literally ever.
Wait a minute, is that Quee's pod?
Oh, Quee. I remember Quee.
Well, I better go take care of this.
But is that Krillin screaming in the distance? Oh my god, that was Krillin screaming the entire time? Oh my lord, bro almost went Super Saiyan 3.
You done, Krillin?
Yeah.
Did you get it all out of your system? Have you proved to the world how annoying and insufferable you are? How essentially your entire worth as a character is screaming at Saiyans? How basically your entire character arc is screaming at Saiyans and having sex with androids? Bro actually won, all right? Bro literally won.
I'm good.
Hey, what's that over there?
In the name of Frieza, we demand that you stop!
Oh, holy shit, imagine needing to deal with this guy, bro. Imagine needing to deal with this dude.
Wait, haven't I heard that name before?
All right, stay where you are and we'll shoot you.
That sounds like the worst thing ever.
Don't you mean, or we'll shoot you?
We know what we said.
Oh, no. No, the German toilet.
Huh. Well, there goes our ship.
What the f***ing hell?
Damn, man, you couldn't hit the broadside of a space bar.
Yeah, well, that's only because I'm too busy hitting the broadside of your mom.
He may have lost a 5-year-old boy, but bro absolutely killed it there in his final moments.
On my face!
God damn. Imagine losing to a 5-year-old and Krillin.
Looks like they're all
washed up!
washed up.
Oh my god, kill me, bro.
Yeah!
Alright.
Da, 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 da.
Oh, dude, no, Krillin won't count for, oh.
I can't believe this. We're stranded on an alien planet. It's like pitch black.
It's like every single space movie in the history of space movies.
Only our Vin Diesel is a total bitch.
Is Krillin Vin Diesel, but just like short?
It might be best if we get ourselves out of the open. Hey, look, a cave. See, Bulma? Isn't this nice? A nice, dark, dank.
Yeah! Seems safe.
Who knows? Maybe here I'll finally meet a real man.
What about Yamcha?
A real man.
Oh man! Oh man! And she meets Vegeta, right, dude? That's crazy. I didn't even think of that, but that happens now. She meets Vegeta for the first time here, dude. I'm telling you, I didn't watch Dragon Ball Z in 20 years. It feels so good. Such a nostalgia trip.
Hey, Krillin, you feel that?
What, the need to pee? Well, they destroyed the toilet, so I guess I'll
Bro,
just use a
stop.
flusher. Oh my god, get in the cave!
All right.
Krillin, they have the Dragon Balls.
Yes, Gohan. I noticed.
Did you feel their power levels? They were as strong as Vegeta.
Yes, Gohan. I noticed.
No.
That one guy at the front, he was like 100 Vegetas.
Yes,
Oh shit! Frieza.
Gohan. I noticed. On the bright side, I no longer have to pee anymore.
Let's go! Problems sometimes solve themselves.
I'm gonna go change in the cave.
We got it.
Jeez, took you long enough.
We're going after those Dragon Balls.
All
Well,
right.
what?
We may be outmatched, but we didn't come this far just to give up.
What the heck happened in that?
Yikes, that's scary. You know, sometimes, you know, you gotta sell yourself short. You know, sometimes, bro, you gotta call it a game. You know, every once in a while you fold. You gotta know when to hold them, and you gotta know when to fold them. You know what I'm saying?
That cave.
Something I should have taken care of a month ago.
I don't get it.
Come on, Gohan.
Bro gooned in that cave. Bro gooned in that cave.
Bulma,
Gotta know when to bust him.
stay here and call Roshi back on Earth. We may need backup.
Bulma, stay here and do womanly things. Don't get involved in manly situations. All right, child, let's go fight. The first goon cave, true. Woman, you are not for the battlefield. All right, 5-year-old, let's go.
Stay close, Gohan.
All right.
Well, I guess I better set up camp then. Oh God, it's everywhere!
Nice. Actual goon cave. Bro called a landline from Namek.
Kame House, where the beaches are fine and the bitches are finer.
Great.
Could you speak up? I'm not wearing pants. And not only is Vegeta on the planet, but apparently someone else is there. Even stronger than him. So in short, be whack, yo.
True.
Shizzle, Master Rizzle. I can't do it.
Bro, the first... Dude, they called him Master Rizzle before Riz was even a word. Oh my God, that's crazy.
Anything until I'm fully healed, though. If only there were a way.
Hey there, I thought I'd just drop in with these magical sensu beams.
Yeah, well, that would have been really helpful about a week ago, huh?
That heal all wounds and restore your stamina.
If only there were a way.
Take the damn magical beans, Goku.
Ooh, sweet sciencey magic.
Wow. Yeah, shit do be whack at Dragon Ball, you know?
Make it time. All right. Okay, guys, I'm going to Bulma's place. By the way, taking the beans.
Krillin?
Krillin.
But why Bulma's?
Like they immediately knew that it's because Krillin is gonna get fucked up out there.
Well, I need a ship, and Bulma's dad's a scientist.
I'm not even gonna begin to go into what is wrong with that. And just wish you good luck.
Nimbus! Later, guys. Nimbus? Oh God, oh crap, oh Jesus!
Happens to the best of us. Happens.
Oh, there he is.
It's okay, he has magic beans.
Hello there, Vegeta.
Ooh, it's Kui.
Fancy meeting you here.
So you followed me. Sure took your sweet time.
Well, I could have gotten here sooner, but I stopped.
But I was busy getting Botox injections for my beautiful lips.
On my way to plow your mother.
Wow, dude, is that their only line? That is like the entire Frieza force out here have one joke, and it works every single time. Damn, they are so good. They have one joke, but it always works.
My mother's dead.
I know.
That does not make it any cooler.
You know, I'm having trouble remembering, Kui. What's your power level?
Ha!